At 14:27 on June 14, 1944, Sergeant Colin Mercer sat cramped inside his Sherman Firefly on the eastern edge of Lingra, watching 5 German Panthers push steadily across the open Normandy fields, 800 meters away and closing. It was his 8th day in Normandy. He had never destroyed a tank, and his division had already seen more than 40 Shermans reduced to burning wrecks. The Germans knew the advantage they held. A standard Sherman 75mm gun could not penetrate a Panther's frontal armor at any practical distance, and so the Panthers advanced confidently, head-on, toward the village where British infantry were dug in. Mercer commanded the only tank in his squadron capable of stopping them before they reached effective firing range. The Firefly, armed with Britain's 17-pounder gun, was a machine that had almost been strangled during development. Senior officers had dismissed the idea of fitting such a long, unwieldy cannon into an American turret. Yet 2 stubborn officers, Major Edwin Barrett and Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Lannister, pushed the project forward, solving recoil and space limitations through improvised engineering, external radios, and the removal of the bow gunner to make room for the enormous ammunition. Their persistence ensured that by D-Day, a small number of Fireflies were available, though far fewer than needed. The Germans recognized the threat immediately after the landings. Within days, orders circulated instructing Panther crews to destroy Fireflies first, and the distinctive long barrel made concealment nearly impossible. Mercer, who had been a gunner before his commander was killed 4 days earlier, now relied on his own gunner. Trooper Jamie Kellen, 24 years old, calm under pressure, and accurate in training, but untested against German armor. As the 5 Panthers fanned out into a line, Mercer maneuvered his Firefly behind a stone wall, keeping only the turret exposed. The 17-pounder protruded far forward, impossible to hide completely. Kellen tracked the lead Panther through the telescopic sight, adjusting for distance and wind. At 600 meters, the German commander dropped into the cupola and sealed the hatches. They were preparing for battle. When the moment came, Kellen fired. The Firefly lurched backward under the violent recoil, and the muzzle flash ignited a hedge in front of them. Through smoke and flame, Mercer saw the first Panther roll a few meters forward and stop dead, knocked out with a single shot beneath the turret ring. The other 4 immediately split, 2 right, 1 left, 1 reversing. Professional crews reacting with practiced coordination. Kellen's second shot struck the suspension of a turning Panther, triggering an ammunition detonation that launched the turret high into the air. German rounds slammed into the stone wall and tore through the barn near Mercer's position, showering the Firefly with debris. Mercer ordered a quick reposition, the tank backing behind what remained of the collapsing structure. The battle compressed into seconds. A flanking Panther attempted to cross to the village's northwest edge, and Kellen disabled it with a 3rd shot into the lower glacis, forcing the crew to bail out. Another Panther bore down from 400 meters, its gun swinging toward the Firefly. Kellen had only a heartbeat to act. His round tore through the mantlet, triggering an instant internal explosion that sent the turret cartwheeling across the field. 4 Panthers were destroyed or disabled in barely 2 minutes. The 5th halted its advance, then began to reverse toward a tree line, the German commander realizing the battle was lost. Mercer considered letting it escape, knowing a surviving Panther would report the Firefly's presence and invite a larger, more coordinated attack later. Instead, the German tank stopped at the edge of the trees and adopted a hull-down firing position, challenging the Firefly at long range. Both crews adjusted their aim simultaneously. The Panther fired first, its shot screaming past Mercer's turret by mere feet. Kellen answered instantly, firing before the German barrel had fully settled. The round punched through the exposed turret face and smoke poured from the cupola. It was finished. 6 minutes had passed since the engagement began. 5 Panthers lay destroyed or crippled, and Mercer's Firefly had not taken a single penetrating hit. The other Shermans in the village, unable to harm Panther armor at such distances, had watched the duel unfold without firing a shot. As infantry spread out to secure the battlefield, Mercer and Kellen remained inside their tank, adrenaline fading but awareness sharp. They knew the Germans rarely operated in isolated groups of 5. More armor could be nearby. Reconnaissance confirmed that the destroyed machines belonged to an elite formation recently transferred from the Eastern Front, experienced crews equipped with Germany's best medium tanks. The after-action assessments praised the Firefly's performance, but also highlighted its flaws. Its brilliant muzzle flash exposed firing positions instantly. Its oversized gun complicated movement through villages and bocage, and the heavy ammunition exhausted loaders rapidly. Nevertheless, the engagement validated the Firefly program that had once been repeatedly dismissed by the Ministry of Supply. Over the following months, Mercer and Colin fought in multiple operations, from Epsom to Goodwood, and destroyed 9 additional German armored vehicles, including Panthers, Panzer IVs, and assault guns. Their Firefly was eventually knocked out near Nijmegen during Operation Market Garden by an 88mm anti-tank gun, though the crew escaped unharmed and were assigned another Firefly within days. By the end of the war, Fireflies had become indispensable. Roughly 2,100 were fielded, and they were credited with destroying hundreds of German heavy tanks, more than any other Allied vehicle. The 17-pounder gun influenced British tank design for years after the war, while the Firefly itself faded into museums and training manuals. Sergeant Colin Mercer returned to Yorkshire and lived quietly as a mechanic. Jamie Kellen became a teacher in Edinburgh. Neither wrote memoirs, yet their actions at Lingra became a case study for every British armored regiment. 5 Panthers destroyed in 6 minutes by a single Firefly crew whose discipline and precision reshaped perceptions of what the hybrid tank could accomplish. Their feat remained a small footnote in military history, but for the infantry they saved, and for the crews who later survived because they studied that battle, it mattered. Colin Mercer's stand became a small, almost invisible thread woven into the larger fabric of the war, yet it carried a weight far beyond the number of shells fired or machines destroyed. For the men who heard the story, it served as a reminder that resolve could matter as much as armor, that courage could bridge the gap between what was expected and what was possible. Even the veterans who had long ceased to believe in heroism found something in that tale, a sense that determination, when held firm in the most desperate moments, could push back against forces far greater than themselves. What happened in that Normandy field was not recorded in grand speeches or history books, but its spirit lived on in mess halls, in whispered recollections, in the silent nods exchanged between tank crews who understood the cost of standing their ground. It taught them that victory was rarely a single glorious charge. More often, it was a collection of quiet decisions made by ordinary men who refused to step aside. And so, long after the smoke cleared and the final shots of the war faded into memory, the lesson endured, that sometimes the world shifts not because of overwhelming power, but because someone, somewhere, chooses to face the impossible and hold the line.